started. If anybody has trouble, I'm going to try to go without a microphone. Usually being loud isn't a problem my family suffers from. So, I grew up in the country on a farm, and you could definitely yell for your dad across the 40 to come in. So, but if you can't hear me, let me know. So, my name's Sonia Commissar. I'm the Victim Service Attorney and the Project Director for the Coalition of Wisconsin Aging and Health Groups Elder Financial Empowerment Project. And this today we're speaking on is scams. Are you prepared? We also have a couple others that we may be scheduling in the future on different topics. Now I cover a lot of territory because when I do get an opportunity to have an audience such as yourselves, I want to make the most of it. So if I touch on something or anything in this presentation that you want more information about, I have I got brochures and rack cards in the back that have my email address on them. Feel free to shoot me an email asking for whatever information you would like on any topic that you see today, or if you have any questions in general about financial exploitation. We're going to go through first, we're going to tell you who we are a little bit, what we do, and then we'll get into our subject matter. First, we need to acknowledge that our project is supported by a Victims of Crime Act subgrant, 18243. It's awarded by the Department of Justice, Office of Crime Victim Services, under a federal grant from the U.S. Department of Justice, Office for Victims of Crime. It's a mouthful, right? There's a lot of that in the nonprofit world. I discovered there's lots of letters, and that would just roll off the tip of your tongue. So I've had a learning curve. It's been fairly harsh. This is our current mission statement. So CWAG, Coalition of Wisconsin Aging Groups, has been around for quite some time, and our umbrella organization does a lot of advocacy work. The Elder Financial Empowerment Project offers free legal services statewide, and that focus has shifted over the years depending upon the staff, and some of the projects have been dependent upon the source of our financing and what grant, because that is what dictates who we serve and how we do things. But our current focus has been, I came on as a victim service attorney 2 years ago now, became project director last year. And I came on after retirement coming out of COVID. Long-serving attorney, retired. And I'm from a small town in west central Wisconsin, someplace where you do have to drive an hour to get to services oftentimes. And so I've recommitted our program to being more statewide and to traveling to meet our victims. It's become clear to me through the past year that oftentimes our older victims may not have access to technology, reliable internet, and if technology has been used to victimize them, which oftentimes is the case in these scams, I'm not comfortable asking them to make their first contact with me via the same technology that was used to scam them. That seems a bit hypocritical to tell you not to respond to an email, not to give out personal information over the phone, and then turn around and ask for your social security number so I can pull a credit report, right? I want you to know who I am. I have people sign what's called an engagement letter because our services are free. So you don't sign, if you go into an attorney's office and hire them to draft a will for you, you sign a fee agreement. This is what they're doing for you, this is what it's costing you. Well, it doesn't cost you anything, but we still have people go through a document called an engagement letter, so they understand that confidentiality attaches, what the scope of what we will do for them will be, and how we're going to communicate going forward, so that people understand that going into it. We serve victims of financial exploitation and abuse 60 years of age and older. Again, we are statewide, there's no cost. We don't have any income or asset restrictions. Oftentimes with nonprofits, when they're grant funded, there's often income and asset limitations as to what you can get for services and if you qualify. And fortunately, with what the Victims of Crime Act funding that we receive, that doesn't apply. Because what we're finding is with a lot of our older victims, if you own a house, that asset, the equity in your house is often going to disqualify you from any of this free assistance that some of these legal aid offices have. So you can be we get a lot of cash poor They can maintain their lives, but if they've been victimized and savings are gone, it gets really hard really fast. But the assets are keeping them from getting some legal aid. So we're here to step in those cases. Again, attorney privilege attaches, services are confidential, and we're not a mandatory reporter. So if somebody makes a report to Adult Protective Services or to, say, the ADRC office, I'm hoping you're familiar with the Adult Disability Resource Center. If you're not, it's a county agency. They have benefit specialists. If I get a call from somebody looking for assistance with their benefits, not my area. That's who I refer them to. Oftentimes people will go there when they have an issue. They will report to Adult Protective Services. They're under the same umbrella. We do not have to do that. We don't have to report to police. So we follow what we call person-centered advocacy, meaning our victim determines what we do, if we do it, how we do it. COA does not discriminate based on age, race, ethnicity, national origin, religion, gender, sexual orientation, disability, medical history, or other non-merit characteristics. So the forms of financial exploitation that we typically deal with are what we call fiduciary abuse. Those are your agents under your powers of attorney, trustees, representative payees, theft of money or property by family members, usually family members or caregivers, scams, and identity theft. So, like I said, today's topic is scams. Now the first thing, hope you can read it, it's a copy and paste of some information and charts from the Federal Trade Commission on their Consumer Sentinel Network. That's where they collect the data on scams. We report scams to them so they can get a better indication as to what's going on, because as you're all aware, the government throws money at those things that they believe are a problem. These numbers dictate what money goes where and what's available largely. But also, there's kind of a misconception out there that it's only older adults that are getting scammed, which is absolutely not the case. More younger people get scammed. Those under 30 are getting scammed in greater numbers. It's just that older folks have more to lose. My daughter got hit with a scam on an apartment rental. She was out of the country, first time renting. She didn't. I lost some money on it, but she didn't get hurt, so that's as good as it's going to get. Those people are going to get targeted more. They're online more, and they're a little quicker to pull the trigger on certain things. But older people have more assets. And so that's why the one chart shows lower numbers, but more assets, more money lost. Okay, one of the first ones we're going to go through, advance fee loans. First thing you need to know is if you've ever looked up any information on anything, whether you're looking for a loan or not, I get hit with these all the time because of the searches I do to make these presentations or to look up bad actors. So our algorithms and all that data mining that happens because we do searches on Google or we click on things on Facebook, they think they're either going to sell me a luxury cruise or they're trying to get me to sign up and pay for a credit card with a $700 limit. Take your pick. That's what I get bombarded with. But these advance fee loans are those instruments where they're trying to get you to sign up for it. And they can be loans. Some of it's credit repair, credit cards. They want you to pay to qualify or pay to apply or prepay certain fees. Typically you go through all of that and there's no loan or credit card involved. And then on top of it, you probably were convinced to give them bank routing numbers so they can direct deposit that loan. Or you gave them your social security number to see if you qualify. So now you're out money, but you've also exposed yourself to potential identity theft. So the best thing to do is don't pay to play. Anyone that wants you, and that's my theory, it's like if you're gonna ask for money up front from me, I'm not doing it. Absolutely don't pay to play, whether it's an advance fee loan, or the other great big one I've been seeing the most are lottery scams. Public clearinghouse, there's publishers excuse me, Publishers Clearinghouse still is a thing. They just send you emails now instead of that mailing. But oftentimes with these, they're asking you to prepay the taxes on your winnings or a shipping fee. Again, it's a pay to play. If you have to pay an upfront fee to collect, it's a scam. And also, you can't win what you never applied for. So many people are getting these notices, you've won, but they've never filled out an application. And I have people that fall for this multiple times, because it's kind of that gambler's thought, right? The next one's gonna be real. The next one, right? And they're spending thousands of dollars because they're saying they're winning big money. And so they're sending out thousands of dollars. And once you fall victim, you really are gonna get hit with more. And then there's a follow-up to this one is, oh, you didn't collect. We can help you collect what you didn't. And they'll pretend to be a lawyer or some other company, and now you're gonna pay more money to have assistance collecting what you didn't win. Because it just keeps coming at you until you stop. And so what I often have to tell people is, change your email, close your email, change phone numbers, because some people just find it too much. I had one victim of this, and when they changed the phone number, she wasn't getting hit by email, it was by phone. So they changed her phone number, they started mailing. So the husband gave the power of attorney permission and helped forward the mail to the power of attorney so that the wife wasn't going to get the mail in her hands even. They could throw them away, because if you shut them off one way, they're going to try to find another way at you. And it can be really hard for some folks too. And like I said, I have one victim, she's done this probably a dozen times, and they still feel the need to have to forward her mail now. So again, don't pay to play. Anytime you see on any of these scams, oftentimes there's a pressure to act now. You gotta do it, you're gonna miss your opportunity. It's time limited. The more somebody presses you to act, whether it's hard sales, I used to fall for hard sales, I hated hard sales. Back in the day, they used to sell us phone book, the advertisements in the phone book, right? And I had to, and I've been pressured into signing on contracts that I shouldn't have, that were not a good idea in hindsight. So I had to give myself a 24-hour cooling off period. It's like, no, we're not signing anything anyone's trying to sell me until I have time to think about it. Because I already had fallen for the high pressure sales. Salespeople are gonna say it's high pressure sales. It's a really fine line depending on their tactics, and the tactics are very similar. So you need to be mindful of when they are pressing you to respond now, you gotta pay now. That's a big red flag. Don't share your account information unless you really know who you're dealing with. And you really can't. If it's an unsolicited email, if it's an unsolicited call, I'm telling people just don't. If you didn't reach out for information from that company, if you didn't call and aren't waiting for a return phone call, be suspect. And again, what your mom said was true. If it's too good to be true, it sounds too good to be true, it is. I mean, gotta just keep repeating that, but people fall for it, that's why they're still around. And I like to share with people, there is one particular scam that's been targeting attorneys for since over 20, 25 years now. And the reason it's still around, because once in a while it'll float through my emails. And if it's still in circulation, it's because it's still working. And most of the attorney friends I know think they're above falling for this type of scam, they're all so smart. I know 3 attorneys had to work to convince a colleague of ours that it was a scam. Don't deposit that. This is back in the days of checks. Don't deposit the check, don't return it. He goes, no, it's a good deal, it's a good contract, it'll be easy. No such thing as easy money, right? It took 3 of us to convince her not to do it. But it's still out there. That was 20 years ago. And like I said, it still comes through my emails periodically. Internet computer scams. Right now, most of you know, you can't trust the email address. I got a colleague, he's been hacked on, apparently. But he's in my contacts. So when I get an email, it just shows up his name. Well, we exchange emails quite regularly. So I click and I thought it didn't sound like him. It was way too cheerful. But, you know, I was feeling good. It's like, oh, really? And I actually responded to it. And then I'm like, God, that's just so out of character. And I checked the email address. It's a different email address. But in my mailbox, it just has his name. Okay? So I know this because I sent something back to him and going, is this, because again, out of character. Is this from you? It's like, no, that's not my email address. Many of us have multiple email addresses, right? I'm not going to tell you how many I have. It's stupid. But because I can't remember how to shut 2 of them down. They're just going to be out there forever because I don't know the login, so they're just on my phone. But most people, a lot of people do have more than one. They'll at least have like one of their work ones potentially, and then a personal one, and sometimes they'll have multiple personals. Like you give that one to the, you know, the stores or whatever. One's just for your garbage stuff. So it's easy enough to fall victim because of that. And I don't know what they're getting out of it, because I actually responded, it's like, sure, we'll schedule a meeting. This is my availability. And then I went back, like, yeah, he doesn't want to meet with me. So I don't know what the deal is with that one, but it looks legitimate. It shows up as legitimate in my box. There's a thing called pig butchering. I don't know if you're, John Oliver has it on his show on HBO. He just had a show on it, and it will be out on YouTube, and that's a scam. And the idea with that, the theory is it can be any kind of topic, but it's like pig butchering. They're fattening you up for the kill. It's very subtle, right? So what they're doing is they're developing a relationship. They're getting you to respond to things, and then slowly but surely they'll lead you down the path to getting, you know, scammed. Internet computer scams. So don't trust your email addresses. Phone numbers, same thing. The phone number, I get them. Sales calls. These people that solicit, you know, these cold calls. They'll say they're from Wisconsin. Some address. There'll be some phone number in Wisconsin that you know, some town you never heard of. I keep getting one from Trevor. Anyone know where Trevor, Wisconsin is? No idea, but I keep getting that one. And it's a solicitation. They're trying to sell me something. Okay, so some of them are sales, but some of them are, I think the one that was going around Wisconsin was the sheriff's. The sheriff's was coming from supposedly a local type phone number, but it wasn't, and it was a scam. That was a couple of years back. I was getting that one religiously. Sometimes they'll fake a name. They'll use a friend. Again, I think they're targeting your mailboxes, your contact list, if that's, and getting you that way. As far as me responding, I haven't seen anything, but I don't know what I've exposed myself to by that one. Again, there'll be authentic looking emails. There could be text messages that come through. Also, you need to be mindful. Somebody, one webinar that I attended was adamant that you could tell by looking at the font of the email or the font used in the internet the website address. Unless they're side by side, I have no illusions that I'm going to be able to tell the difference on that. When they're side by side, I can. With the computer scams and phishing, we suspect an unauthorized transaction. Everybody's gotten, I swear, everyone has gotten the Amazon. There's a problem with your credit card billing. My mom, I do this for a living. My mom did it. 9 o'clock at night, I'm getting a phone call. So at 9 o'clock at night, I'm putting credit freezes on her credit reports. I'm not going to do it for you folks. Only mom gets 9 o'clock at night treatment. But that's what you got to do. You know, you got to shut it down immediately. She didn't lose money because she only has one credit card. And it had already been frozen. She didn't even know it. There had been a suspicious transaction. They'd shut her card down, or it would have been gone. Because she gave it to them. They said, oh, that's a problem with that one. You got another one? Fortunately for her, she did not. Or we would have gone right down the rabbit hole. So it's you get them at 9 o'clock at night. You're distracted. You're watching TV. Something comes up. You're waiting for an order. Almost anybody is susceptible to this. You're one distracted response to an email. So no matter what anybody tells you, first of all of our information's been compromised. If you're an adult, your information's compromised. The IRS transcript portal, hacked. Target, hacked. GHC, hacked. Blue Cross and Blue Shield, hacked. UW system, hacked. And they used to be wonderful. If you back in the day, they used our social security cards numbers as our ID numbers. It's all out there. I got one from University of Minnesota. Why? 10 years ago, my daughter applied for school there. And they got hacked, covering like 30 years of information. If you worked there, applied there, went to school there, your information could have been compromised. So you can do everything supposedly right, and your information's still out there. It's just a matter of whether somebody stumbled on it. So, how to protect yourself? Use the antivirus. Okay, it's not enough to just pay for it, folks. My mom I put all of it on her computer. You gotta update it, you gotta run it. My mom did not do that, which is why she went through several computer crashes. Use strong passwords and keep them updated. This is a hard one. I got a passport book. I do everything wrong. I got a passport book. I got one of those address books, for back in the day. Only it has your login and your password. And I keep it with me all the time because I'm the one getting locked out of my own accounts all the time, right? You're not supposed to do that, but it's hard, right? Delete messages from unsecured sources. Well, how are you supposed to know if they're unsecured on your email? And I'm not going to tell you how many thousand emails I probably have on my phone right now. So it's hard. It's hard to do all these things to be safe and still function in the world we live in right now. The big thing, though, with anything, if it's a text, if it's an email, and you're not certain, don't respond to that email. Look up, either going on the website or look up in your contacts, the proper email or whatever you use. With those that are looking to verify, or there's a problem with your billing, like I told my mom, in the future, if you're ordering off an app on your phone or your tablet or online, go back to where you normally do your ordering. Don't respond to what was sent to you. Don't call the number that they give you. Flip your credit card over, call that number, because you're going to get redirected to something that sounds legitimate and it's not. Don't open attachments. Anybody that sends you something, don't click on it. But it's hard because they are mimicking places that we do business with. And so a lot of times you can do as much as you can to prevent it. The big thing is, what do you do if it happens? Like my mom almost immediately knew, I don't know, and called me so that we could take care of it. Taking action right away is absolute must. So the first thing you need to know is, it's not to get upset if you do fall victim, it's to make sure that you turn around and you take action immediately. And again, change your browser settings and block pop-ups. I don't know, I have never seen pop-ups like I did on my mom's computer at one point. I don't know what the heck was going on because you couldn't even use it. Another thing is grammatical errors. I used to do bankruptcy. Before I came here, I did bankruptcy work. And I have had people that are stressed get very anxious, and if they get a notice, they get very upset and they call. I had somebody just hysterical. This was supposed to be taken care of. You said, like, what in the world? I was literally in my car. I remember I pulled into a rest area to see what she sent me. And it clearly was written in broken English because you read it out loud. It was written like it sounded. There's no way anyone should have thought that was a legitimate law office trying to collect. But when we're stressed out and anxious, it does not take a lot for things to escalate. And then I've never tried it. Hover your mouse over a link in an email. Don't click it. And to see where it actually directs you. I just don't click and don't look at. I haven't had so many problems with reverse mortgages, but I am seeing an uptick in modification scams. I have a victim currently that fell for one, and she paid without a fee agreement. It was just all over the internet, and she sent money, and they did send her something. And I believe what they were trying to say was that it was a modification, but it was clearly from overseas because they called it something else. And they told her, just give it to your bank, they're gonna do it. Well, nobody can make the bank do anything, right? You can't tell them that I can't go into the bank and change the terms of my loan because I said so. And putting it in writing and having it come from another source doesn't change the fact. But what we do have are, oftentimes, what we see is in most marriages, you have somebody that's taking care of the dollars and the finances and the paperwork, and one that doesn't. And the problem gets to be when that person, the money person, passes away. And the other person does not know how things work. So oftentimes, they're doing the best they can, but because they're not sure of the proper way of doing it, they fall victim. And the more desperate their financial circumstances become, the more likely they are to fall for another scam trying to help them. So in this instance, she was scammed using the internet, so I had to tell her, you're gonna get more. Don't respond to any email solicitations. But with the reverse mortgages, part of the scam with those was that they were being directed to home improvement scammers because they needed to do X, Y, and Z to qualify, and the upfront fees, or charging them for information that they could have otherwise gotten for free. They can be used, reverse mortgages are a legal instrument. They do serve a purpose and a function, but you do need to understand what you're signing. You do need to be going into somebody reputable to do it. Another great big one that I'm facing a lot lately are contractor frauds and home improvement scams for the same reason. My mom is very fortunate that she has 2 sons that live nearby in a small community, so they can direct her to the person to call. But I've had a whole lot of women, it's usually older women, that weren't responsible for hiring the plumber. They weren't responsible for hiring the electrician. Some of them are in homes that haven't been maintained for years, and now they gotta contact somebody. And that can be problematic. You have people that come in. I had one poor woman, she did all her due diligence and researched a roofer. She needed a new roof, it was after a hail damage. She didn't go with somebody that just showed up at the door. But once that person got in, he's like, oh, you got this problem, I can help. Oh, it's even worse than I thought, this now needs to be done. And next thing she knows, she's $100,000 in because he just kept leading her down the path. They want to sit at the table, they want to have a cup of coffee, they bring their kids in because then you're going to be less likely, well, I don't want to get him into trouble, he's got kids to support. And so it just slowed down her response and talking to people until it was quite a horrific situation. The roof was good, but everything else was crap. Had to be ripped out. She later got an inspector in, it's all gonna have to be ripped out. So that is, and another part of it is, some of the time they'll do the work in places, like you're not going up in your attic and looking to see what they actually did, are you? I wouldn't. I've seen my mom's crawl space, there was nobody in our family getting up that hole. So they will sit there, and actually there's been reported cases where, they just are hammering away, just pounding nails into the frame. No work's actually being done, but it's in a place where nobody's gonna see it unless you report it. So it's hard out there, and you can do, they tell you, here's a whole list of what you're supposed to do. But oftentimes, especially in smaller communities, you can get ripped off by the guy that somebody, referred to you because they see an easy enough target, they have a perceived need. You're supposed to confirm. You can go to the Better Business Bureau. In our case, we made a report to the Better Business Bureau. We made a report to Wisconsin Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection. so that if somebody were doing their due diligence, if they were going to make sure there were no complaints, this guy gets a black eye. Because the unfortunate reality in a lot of scams is what we do is to stop what we call the bleeding. We want to stabilize people, put freezes on so they can't be re-victimized, try to deal with whatever underlying vulnerability they had that made them a target, because oftentimes we're not going to get the money back. Even in cases where we know who the scammer is, like in a home improvement scam, if they spent that money, and oftentimes they're collecting cash, so we don't have a paper trail, we don't have a bid, and if the money's gone, you can sue somebody, you can win. You can go and get a criminal charge and win and get an order for restitution. But if they've already spent it as fast as they got it, your chances of collecting are what? Right, and that also does factor into whether you can get a district attorney to charge them, or if you're going to be able to get legal aid to go through pursuing it. Because it's not TV, folks. It takes a year or better sometimes to go through the court system. It is stressful, it's time consuming, and are you going to do it? Is the attorney's office going to do it if, at the end of the day, even if you win, you're not going to collect, or you're going to get a restitution order that says they're going to pay you back $50 a month until you literally die. Because if they, my poor woman's case, she's like 80, and at, I think it ended up to $200,000 before it was all said and done. How long is it going to take at $50 or even $100 a month to pay that back? So those are all factors that do come into play in real life. So that's why when I do presentations, yeah, we're here to help, but if you can keep the money in your pocket to begin with, that's absolutely the better outcome here. Debt relief scams, same thing. People get into trouble and they start paying for assistance. Now there's legitimate companies out there that do credit consolidations. And yes, as a former bankruptcy attorney, yeah, before I file your bankruptcy, you're going to pay me because I don't get special treatment, and Best Intentions doesn't get my bill paid after you file bankruptcy, and I can collect because I technically filed bankruptcy on myself. So there are instances where you're going to have to pay for services before you get them. But you sat down with them, you meet them, you have a piece of paper that says, I'm paying you to do X, Y, and Z, right? And that should be true. Now I'm telling you, yes, if you have somebody do your home improvement, you should do that too, right? Get a bid, get a contract. My mom's doing repairs because my dad did maintain the house before he died, and so now she's got a 50-year-old house that needs work. I think she's had the plumber in there twice. She had some of the sewer line fixed. She's having a culvert replaced. Nothing in writing, no bids. It's the local guy my brother referred to. So, practice what I preach, not as we do. But that's real life though, right? If you have family members, or if you have family members that work in certain areas, it's not uncommon for them to refer somebody to help you, and you trust the process. And I tell you, when I go into Western Wisconsin, small town Western Wisconsin, I says, man, you really got to get a bid. Yeah, you're the lawyer from Madison, okay, and I get dismissed. Until there's a problem, and then I says, like I told you to put it in writing. But the real life, it's not always how it works. So we do the best we can to protect ourselves, do as much due diligence, and make sure that, like in my mom's case, they all do business with my brothers, so they have less incentive to rip off an old lady. We hope. So with like debt bills, the scams there, usually the problem is when somebody gets sick, misses some payments because they don't have people lined up to help them. They fall behind, collection letters come. Oftentimes, those people that have always had financial trouble or just kind of skated on the edge of things, they don't care about these collection efforts. But the folks that I have that have never missed a payment in their life, that get sick, now they missed a couple payments because their spouse or they didn't have anybody lined up to make those payments while they were ill, they panic when they get the collection call. And that's when they fall victim to scammers, because they don't know what options are out there. I got a gentleman, tax bills were just due the end of January, the first half. He called me 2 weeks ago in an absolute panic because he didn't make that payment. He absolutely was certain somebody was going to knock on the door and kick him out because he was 2 weeks late paying a property tax bill. He's never paid anything late, ever. He got sick, missed the payment, and now he doesn't have the money to pay it. And he's in a panic. So we talked him through things that he could do before he falls victim to somebody trying to sell him an instrument that's just going to further deplete his funds. Same thing with credit repair scams. A lot of people that do have issues think there's a magic wand. Like I said, I did bankruptcy, get a lot of phone calls. Not a magic wand. Bankruptcy means they can't collect and you don't owe, but it's not a magic wand to repairing anything. And there's a lot of places that will promise at a pretty hefty fee to do what you can do to clean up your credit reports. Student loan debt scams. So you think at maybe your age you don't have to worry about it. I'm here to tell you there's a lot of 60-year-olds and plus that have a lot of student loan debt out there. Either for their own still out there lingering, or because they did the Parent Plus loans and signed for their kids. And now they're not paying and now they got collections out there. So that is a vulnerability. And again, you just don't need to pay anybody to get the information that's available on student loans and forgivenesses. And the same advice that holds true for all scams, high pressure sales, promises that sound too good to be true, claims of special relationships. Nobody has a special relationship with the Department of Education, they just want their money, just like anybody else. So there's also student loan forgiveness scams. Student loan forgiveness does exist, it is happening, but again, anytime there's an opportunity to make money off somebody, people are going to take advantage of it. So there's phony application sites. They can target by phone, they target by email, always charging a fee for help. Again, if you didn't solicit them and you didn't reach out for information and you didn't hire them from the get-go, don't pay just because somebody's seeking your business. I had a friend ages ago, first time home buyer, and she's like, oh, this woman's helping me, this agent. And I'm like, who's paying her? And she just keeps going, oh, but she's doing such a good job. It's like, Lizzie, who's paying her? Are you paying her? And she's like, no, then she don't work for you. She's not looking out for your best interest. If you didn't seek them out, you didn't hire them to provide a service for you, don't trust that they're working on your behalf, right? She didn't listen to me, she bought a money pit, that's what she bought. Because they really did choose to unload a dump on her. Grandparent scams, fictitious relative scams. So, you probably heard some scary stories about artificial intelligence. It is true, they can mimic voices. So now it's not just, in the past it was, you sound funny, oh I got a cold, oh I broke my nose in the car accident. No, they can actually sound like your grandson. Another one, again my mother, I love my family, we have so many examples of what not to do. Everybody's the same, all families are the same. On Facebook, she tells me now after she accepted it, my mom's great about that. She does things and going, maybe I shouldn't have done that, and then I get the phone call. She accepted a friend request from my daughter, and she's telling me about it. I'm like, I thought you guys already were friends. Yeah, I thought so too, but you know the internet, there's things that are glitchy, whatever. And she starts laughing because she says, my daughter called her by her first name. I have never heard my 30-year-old daughter use my mother's actual name. That's grandma, period. I'm like, Mom, I don't think that was, I don't think that was Melissa, but I'll check. So I contacted my daughter. My daughter's laughing, going, I don't think I've ever called her by her name. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'll talk to you later. Mom, delete, block, delete, block. Now they can't be friends, even the legitimate, from her actual Facebook page, because we got it blocked. So now we have this where we got to do through this group thing. But that was the giveaway. So they tell you about doing different things. You know, have that safe word or a family password. I told my mom, my daughter lives overseas. So she would legitimately be the one, my mom could legitimately have a child traveling or living abroad asking for a wire transfer. And I told my mom, there is no way ever. I might have to ask you for money because she got herself into trouble, but she will never be contacting you. It's never gonna happen. If my mom ever went to the bank and asked for a wire transfer, I would hope the bank would pump the brakes and ask her a ton of questions. I have sent wire transfers, and I get asked a ton of questions. So that's what should happen. But we know it doesn't always happen because that's why people get in trouble. That's why Western Union used to be the place of choice, right, for these scammers. Walmart was a place of choice where you go in and ask for a wire transfer because your grandson's in a jail in Cuba or wherever, right? They're always in jail or had a car accident, it seems like, or medical, they've been hurt. So we simply say no, it's not. If you're big enough to go travel abroad and get yourself into trouble, then you're big enough to talk to mom and dad, leave grandma and grandpa alone. That's the rule at our house, right? And if your kids can't deal with that, well then too bad. Because that's the other thing, don't check on them. And the problem is that one of the things they tell you to do is contact them at the number you have for whatever loved one. Have you ever tried calling your grandchildren? How many times? Even if they just left you a message 10 minutes ago, you can't get them on the phone, right? My daughter's like that. Can't be just me. I've done that with my nieces and nephews. They'll text me. I'll text them back. It's out space. It'll take 3 days for me to get a response.
What you get out of there?
So some of the things that they tell us to do, we know in real life aren't going to work. So we, like I said, in our family, she will never be the one to hit you up for money, Mom. I'll do it. So again, some of the tips that they tell you to do. Wire transfers, just remember, you wouldn't put cash in an envelope, right? Wire transfer is the same thing. Once it's in that bank account, there's a limited window to pull things back, but don't count on it. Which is really funny. They say it's a short window, but me, like I said, I used to send her money. Now she's got a big girl job, so now she's sending money back this way to pay her own American bills. And it takes forever, it seems like, for it to clear the bank. So you would think they'd be able to stop it. Don't count on it. Another version is not just grandchildren scams. It's that fake call. It's not the IRS calling you, right? How many times have we tell people that? We tell people Social Security Administration is another one, Department of the Treasury. They're not going to email you unless you've already had business with them and they're responding to an inquiry. But I've gotten the Social Security one in my email, middle of the night, and I have that little mini anxiety attack. I see something that says Internal Revenue Service. I get Internal Revenue Service things in the mail for a client, and I still have the anxiety attack, and I don't even owe taxes. So there's certain triggers that we all have. Government agencies usually is one of them. Take a minute, think about it, instead of reacting. That's the biggest thing we can do. And I'm telling you again, practice what I preach, not what I do. I am literally the person who will click my clicker 95 times if I have something not working on my computer. No patience whatsoever. But we need to when it comes to these types of contacts, because that's not how they contact us. And it's really hard not to panic when somebody's on the phone saying they're with the IRS. That's why the one call in the spring, you're going to get the utility disconnect notices, and people fall for them time and time again. Even when they really are certain they don't owe money, they still will put out credit card information or debit card information to pay the utilities. Again, don't trust the caller ID. Receive a caller email, check it out. IRS. Like I said, my family, myself included, we do all the wrong things. I get a letter. I never get a refund. I make sure I don't get a tax refund. And when I was self-employed, I never got one. I paid in. But one year I screwed up and overpaid. I got this letter because they wanted to confirm identity because I never got one before, I guess. I got this letter. So I call the number. I go through and I give this person all my information. Date of birth, address, social security number, last year's AGI, everything she asked for. Then I get put on hold, and you get the horrible, if you've ever been on hold with the IRS, horrible little hold music. And I've been on hold for clients, so it sounded right. That's when I decided, I wonder if this letter is legitimate. I'm looking at it. You could easily recreate a letterhead. I can make a letter look like it's coming from the IRS. So now I'm Googling while I'm on hold. I just gave that person all of my contact, all of my identity information. Now I decide to Google to see if this is a legitimate letter. It was, thankfully. But that's not the way you should be doing your research. It's not after you just gave away everything they need to steal your life. See, don't give them access. Oh, don't give them access to your computer. You ever had a computer issue? I loved it when I found out, can we take remote access? Absolutely. I don't have to sit there for the next 30 minutes having tech support tell me click here, click there, and I'm going, I don't see it. I thought that was the most fabulous invention ever. Now they tell you, don't do it. Trust me, if I have software issues, I'm letting them do it. Don't pay by wire transfer, prepaid debits, gift cards. People continuously are going out and buying gift cards to pay scammers. I don't understand it. I must be the laziest person out there, because if my PayPal doesn't work while I'm sitting on the couch trying to buy something, I'm not going to get up and even go get my purse to make the purchase. I guess I don't need it. People will get up and go and buy gift cards, come back, and then read those numbers off. If you require that much effort to pay somebody, they don't need your business. If they can't take your credit card or debit card and require a gift card, that is not a legitimate source. Telemarketing or charity scams, again, be suspicious of anybody that's contacting you. Go to their website if you want to donate money. Make sure it's a website that you are familiar with and an agency that you know is legitimate and has a good track record. And even then, I'm starting to look up how much do they pay their CEOs, how much is actually going to the target. Some of the bigger ones, they're not giving as much to, was it the Sarah McClellan song? What's the one for the pets that comes out every Christmas? You know, yeah, you know which one I'm talking about. Makes us all cry, we can't listen to it. A ton of their money goes to their overhead, very little. You're supposed to donate to your local humane societies, that type of thing. Romance scams, ever popular. Saw a gentleman that fell for one of these. He actually was convinced to take out a second mortgage or a mortgage on the property, handed over $50,000 in cash. Bank didn't even want to cash the check, but one bank did. He took it to somewhere else and they did. You always can find them. Police report was even made by the first bank. So the first bank tried to alert him, don't do it. He just moved on. Now he can't afford the mortgage. So now we're dealing with cleanup because it's cash and it's gone. He knows who he gave it to, but if she didn't put it in the bank, where's our paper trail? I highly doubt she's going to admit to taking $50,000 in cash from somebody. So now we got to deal with this mortgage situation that he found himself in, because he could legitimately lose his house because he can't pay the bill for the loan he took out to hand cash over. So they happen. So, and this is in real life. This wasn't done over the internet. This wasn't one of those internet relationships. We see that, we've heard a lot of that in the news, but these are things that are happening in real life, in person too. The other part of the online version is we keep hammering, don't wire transfer, no wire transfers, no wire transfers. Well, they know that. So now part of that scam is an investment scam. So they develop a relationship with them, and then, oh, I work in whatever. I can help you with your investments. I can help you get, make more money off your investments. This is what I do. They'll have fake websites, they'll have people transfer over their portfolios, and then they're gone. So that is now, instead of that ask for money, what we used to make fun of is like, oh, there's always a sick relative, or I need more money for the airfare type of story, and then they never show up. Now it's this romance scam tied with an investment scam. A lot of Bitcoin involved in that as well. I know enough about Bitcoin to know I don't know anything about Bitcoin, so therefore I'm not investing in using Bitcoin. If I don't understand it, I'm not doing it. I think that's a pretty safe way of approaching life. So some targeting things to keep in mind. Yeah, they're still out there on the website, they're traveling. Another version of this, it's not just romance. An older woman was being targeted and she was buying gift cards to send over to somebody that supposedly was in the service. It was more of a grandparent type, grandchild relationship fostered. And I don't know how that got connected. They got connected, but when questioned, it wasn't a romance thing. But it was a lonely woman, and this person was chatting with her, and he had needs, and so she was sending him money, supposedly, so he could buy things while he was overseas with the military. So it can take different forms. I don't give money to family that I know living down the street, so I don't know why people are so generous. But don't give money you're not going to collect, right? Isn't that what they say about loaning to family? And don't loan money that you can't afford to lose. I think everybody should be applying that no matter who the solicitation's coming from. Another one, family and caregiver scams. This gets to be a tough one, especially when you have family members that are helping, even if you're not caregivers. One of my brothers lives literally a mile from my mom. So he's the one that plows out her driveway, brings in wood, because she has a wood stove. She has something has to be fixed. He comes in and checks it out, assists with. It'd be really hard for her to say no if he comes needing financial help, right? She's going to be reluctant to say no because she's going to fear that she's going to lose that help, right? So that plays into this scam, as well as some people have caregivers that they pay to come into the home, or somebody pays to come into the home, and they befriend them. It's no longer just that professional relationship. They sit down, they have coffee, they chat, they start talking about their lives. Where does it cross the line between somebody manipulating someone to give money from them, or generosity? I've had the conversation with my mother, because my brother talked her into buying an F-150, and there's no reason that 76-year-old lady needed an F-150, okay? My brother likes the F-150 that he borrows on a regular. My mom's not towing and pulling anything with that truck, and I hate it, it's too big. So there's things like that. And so I made the comment, she goes, yeah, I know, but it's fine. He helps me out, it's fine. I'm like, okay, it's your money, it's not my money. So where's the line, right? As long as people, because despite what some people's older children and adult children think, our parents can make stupid choices with their money. We don't have to agree with it. I don't think my mother needs to be buying, chips and ice cream for her nieces and nephews to the degree she does. She'd save a lot on her grocery bill, which I do the buying, picking up for her. Her choice. Better than she does, she goes to Ho Chunk with it, but you can go to Ho Chunk with all your money too. It's not your children's money, even though sometimes the adult children start to think and talk that way. And that often they'll get involved in some of these scams because they want to protect their inheritance. So we see that too. So they think they're doing it for the right reasons. They're going to save mom because they're spending money on X, Y, and Z. Whose interests are they truly serving and looking out for? And that gets to be the justification. The other thing with that one, with caregiver scams, is My mom again, loved to say, here's my debit card, run down to the store. I don't want your debit card. One, I'm afraid it's going to travel 200 miles back home with me in my wallet. That wouldn't be helpful. But she would just give it out. No, my PIN number is X. Mom, no. And so we have a different system. But it's not uncommon for people to have. It's easier for me to go run errands. I can run to the dollar store and pick her up X, Y, and Z. It's easier for me to do that than for her. So things to look out for. Again, pressure to sign up immediately. If they're not going to give you a minute to think about what it is they're selling you, don't do it. Again, do as I preach, not as I say. I went in to buy a car, and by the time I got through with them throwing number, and I was going to leave with the car. There was no doubt I was going to leave with the car. But by the time they got done spitting numbers at me, I'm like, okay, I'm done. What colors does it come in? I want the blue one. Does it have the USB? Yay, I want to go. What's the monthly payment? 3? Yep, this is it. And I left, and I'm signing documents. And I couldn't tell you what all those lines on the paper were. I just wanted to get the heck out of that dealership. And I've had clients come in, I'm like, what's this charge? And they don't know. And I'm like, oh, how could you? It's like, no, I get it. Because I couldn't get out of there fast enough after about an hour and 10 different test drives. Scare tactics. Oftentimes, how many times we fall victim to those ads? Limited time offer. Even my mom makes fun. JCPenney's has been running that sale for 10 years now, right? Everything's been 10, 20% off at JCPenney for 2 decades. Be mindful of that. Limited time offer, going quickly, things like that. And again, sounds too good to be true, man. There's no magic bullets, no magic wands out there. Oh, sign paperwork and meet at a legitimate business. A friend of mine was saying how somebody was going through her building. I think it's one of those 55 and up places, selling life insurance, just knocking on doors. And I'm like, you didn't let them in, did you? It's like, no, I didn't. It's like, okay, but that's the type of thing they're talking about. But again, my dad's had a will drafted by the local attorney, and my dad would not answer the phone and make an appointment to go in and do it. Well, that attorney's father just lived up the valley. He drives by, sees my dad on his four-wheeler. They signed it on the hood of the truck. Not what he should have done, but he had a relationship with him, but not how you should do things. Pressure sales tactics, sending cash, paying to play, looking up the numbers. But this is a lot. A lot of this is expecting an awful lot of us in the moment, right? That's why it's very important that if you do fall victim because in a distracted instance you answer the phone, take action right away. Because no matter how many times we tell people this stuff and how many presentations you go to, and you should go to more, anytime you have the opportunity, go to a scams presentation. We all touch on different types of scams. And things, the more you hear it, the more likely it is to stick. But oftentimes, we're only ever one distracted minute away from giving somebody your entire life history and then checking out to see if the letter's legit. Make sure though, be cautious about any contact that you didn't solicit. Because if you're getting contacts, how many times have you bought something and then I clicked on a work bag. I just bought something from that company, saw their ad, clicked to see what this one had, for little pockets. And now I'm getting emails like on the hour from this company saying, did you forget something? It's still available. And I'm going to be getting them for days and days and days. So be mindful of the company and why you're getting it, what's motivating that contact. Fact check. Hang up on robocalls. Caller ID is such a wonderful thing, right? I don't answer anything. If I don't recognize the number, it's going to voicemail. That's just all there is to it. Don't pay with wire transfers or gift cards. Don't believe your caller ID. Again, sounds too good to be true, probably is. And then we just got a few more things to touch on. We were talking, I was talking with Ann about the possibility, I do have a shorter presentation on just decisional capability. Because oftentimes when it comes to talking about scams and the things we have to do to make folks less vulnerable to future re-victimization, we have to acknowledge decisional capability and the fact that as we grow older, we can use some support. My mom, for the first time now, has auto pays because she had an issue with one of her utility bill. So we finally convinced her to do auto pay on her electric bill. Having different things in place so that she can be confident that there's help available should she need it. There's a distinction. Attorneys like to talk about capacity. When we start talking about capacity, though, it's only useful if we're going to litigate. We're going to go to court. Then it's helpful to us. If I'm talking to a room full of people and I want them to do something, if I start throwing that word out, they hear capacity and people hear, oh, you're trying to put me in a home. And now nobody's listening to anything and no one's going to do anything. They won't let you in the door. So I do presentations to different groups and I'm trying to get folks to think about it in the context of getting supports in place to help us make decisions so that we don't feel like we are isolated and operating all by ourselves. And when it comes to decisional capability, the whole concept is to get the support for things like financial choices that have to be made so that we can continue to live independently for as long as possible, right? Everybody's goal is to live independently as long as possible. But because of the sophistication of all of these methods of scamming and the technology, I sit on my couch and I can spend, I get paid Monday, I get paid tomorrow, I will pay every single one of my bills from my couch on my phone. I do everything online. Now, I had to send, my daughter was visiting, I sent her a copy of my little passport, my little password book, because if I end up in the hospital and the first of the month comes, I don't even get a bill mailed to my house. Nobody would know who has to be paid. Nobody would know. And this is not uncommon. If people have gone paperless, if the bill payer gets even just sick at the wrong time, no one's going to pay those bills. Now you're going to get collection calls, you're going to get harassing phone calls, and then people get upset. So it's important to think ahead so that, me and my daughter used to call it game ourselves. We know where our weaknesses are, we know what we need to do to counter that. And so that's why we talk about this. And this is decisional capabilities. Bottom line is that as we age, some people lose their ability to crunch numbers faster than others, and people don't like to talk about it. But we complain about our knees all day long. I do. You know, how many people do we know have hip replacements? We know that. I don't go hiking Devil's Lake, certain trails, all by myself anymore, because all I can envision is a tumble down to the bottom of the rocks, right? We don't have any problems with thinking and preparing for the fact that our knees could fail, right? We have talks about my mom, don't go feed horses when it's iced outside, right? Make sure you have your phone, get your little smartwatch. It's supposed to call 911 if you fall. We talk about that and we make those arrangements for ourselves. We need to do it when it comes to our ability to handle our financials and other things when it comes to our decisional capabilities. I used to make jokes. I don't know that if it is because I never could multitask, or if it's just now I realize how bad I was at it, but I don't multitask. I'm not going to type a letter or an email while talking on the phone to somebody else. If you've done that, I don't even know what I'm talking about here because I'm typing what I'm talking about, not the subject of the letter anymore, right? Maybe I always was bad at it, but I know I'm bad at it now. We're here to consult. We don't have to get involved. If somebody just has a question about something that's happened to them, we can consult with anybody. You can call us directly. We also get calls and consult with different agencies if they have a case of financial exploitation. But the first thing we do is we always have a phone call. Oh, that got screwed up, didn't it? That's not how it looked the other day, I don't think. All right, that gets fixed. We meet, when I do have somebody that has an issue or a romance scam or whatever it is, we meet, I have people prepare timelines. So if you ever have something happen, the first thing I would encourage you to do is start writing down what happened and when. Because we forget, and people need to know that information. And I have them write it down, because if I meet with somebody for an hour, hour and a half, and people are stressed, they're upset, they're uncomfortable, you're gonna forget something. And you're telling your story, and then, oh, wait a minute, I forgot. Now we're jumping back in time. I'm gonna have a tough time keeping straight your chain of events. So if something happens, start writing a timeline, the who, what, when, and wheres. So that if you need to make a police report, if you choose to, or you need to relay that information, it's there, because I asked for it. Because people's memories fail them, they forget when they're sitting in the office, and I want people to get focused on it. I used to do it to prepare people for trial. I'd make them do the same type of thing. Not that they could read it, but it helps focus your mind on what happened. These are the services that we provide in-house. We get people to collect, we look at their timelines, we collect documents, we prepare basically an evidence, and then we discuss what options are available. Then we listen to, we don't pressure anybody. I have one, she's not gonna report her son to the police. She has no interest in calling the police. She's not going to sue them. Well, it does limit what we can get back for her, but she controls what's going to happen and when. So some services we can provide, some litigation we're not situated to do, and then we help with referrals. We can help with a police report if somebody wants that assistance. Again, it's person driven. Our victims decide what gets done and when. We just recently hired an experienced paralegal, so that's going to help me out as to how much more litigation and court appearances I can make. Oftentimes our first step, though, is pulling a credit report to determine the extent of the abuse or exploitation, putting on fraud alerts, freezes, sometimes removing freezes. I've got a couple of cases, been in the office long enough to have help removing a freeze. There's a Medicare Fraud Patrol. I refer people over there, I can help them if they do have it. If you have your identity compromised, you need to check. You know that this is not a bill you get from Medicare when you have that? Look at it. Look to make sure that everything on there is a doctor appointment you attended or a test that you had done, because that information, our identity information, is being used and stolen for that purpose, and it can compromise your medical reports and files. So you've got to look at, you review your credit card statements. I don't do it. I check the balances, I'm pretty much on top of it. Like I said, it's on my phone, but I make sure my mom look through it, make sure all charges all the time, because she has been hit, because, well, Equifax got it, but I don't remember who her credit card's with, but what is it, MasterCard or somebody back in the day not too long ago, they got hacked. She's had hers hacked and she gets the call because they're pretty certain that she's not in New York City spending $1,000 on booze in a hotel room, right? But she lost, there was like $3,000 worth of charges appeared overnight on her credit card. And so they shut it down and she didn't have to pay anything. But you gotta act and you gotta respond to it. I'm terrible. The fraud alerts that come on my daughter's debit, because I'm local, I don't answer and she loses access all the time. We gotta figure out a better system. Because, and my mom has done it. The reason she didn't get her credit card charged in that Amazon scam was because she ignored a phone call. There was a fraud alert about a charge that she made that showed up funny. And it was something she bought from China on Amazon. And it flagged. But she missed the call, which actually saved her. So I don't report to Adult Protective Services. If somebody calls inquiring about what can be done for a family loved one that they're concerned about, I will tell them. But the one big thing to note with adult protective services, there's a lot of misinformation and misconceptions about it. Nobody's putting anybody in a home. One, it's a very costly process. And it's, as you're well aware, if anybody's priced out assisted living, it's expensive. Nobody's footing that bill, right? And nobody's gonna pay to go through a guardianship proceeding or something like that to do that. But people are afraid because there's too many people, my brothers. You do that one more time, Mom, I swear we're gonna put you in a home. Well, at a certain age, that's not funny, right? You know? But I get it. He spent 4 hours trying to fix her lawnmower after she ran over something again and tangled it up. So they can do it. As long as you have confidence, you're able to live independently, you get up, you feed your pets, you get dressed, go grocery shopping, you're fine. But people are afraid. So there's services and assistance they can provide. And they do investigations, and it's on their dime, the government's dime. Police reports, again, I don't do anything without my clients wanting to do it, but we do it. FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, FBI, IC3 is for internet crimes. They're not gonna help you necessarily get money unless they find a trend, and there's a lot of victims that have been victimized in the same way. But we do it so that the government knows of the problem, so they try to assist in the problem. Again, I have people that don't want reports to police. They're not going to sue their grandchild. So then we talk about other options. I've had people isolated from family and friends. Phone numbers change, so one daughter doesn't even have their phone number. And so we've had to help reconnect them to family, reconnect them to people in the community, in groups they once belonged in. Because your family, if that's the case, the family and the community response is going to be the quickest. Social services. Again, I look up, we are statewide. It's amazing how many people aren't aware of the Aging Disability Resource Center and the things that they can assist with. So I end up looking that information up because I am not an expert. I don't know what benefits and services are available to people in Oregon. We refer to the agencies that know the community best. We rely on their expertise. Adult protective services, oftentimes I'm explaining to older folks, no, they're not going to be able to, they're not going to put you in a home. I then often have to explain to the adult children, no, just because mom is spending all her time at Ho-Chunk doesn't mean they're going to put a guardianship in place so that she can't spend her money at Ho-Chunk. And we get calls like that all the time, so sometimes we're explaining to people the limits of the agencies around it. Because it's amazing how adult children want to treat their parents like children. I mean, just like my mom said, you're going to get old too someday. Okay, yeah. It's the new version of the mama's curse, right? You're going to have a child just like you. Now you're going to get old too. Multidisciplinary teams. I belong to 2 here in Dane County. They exist so that those of us that work in this type of area, we meet once a month and we can talk about cases. If I have somebody comes in to have us help them, I have them sign a disclaimer, so a disclosure, so that I can talk to these people. It's a way for those of us that have specific expertise to work with others that have different expertise and different perspectives on a problem to ensure that our victims get the best possible outcome and have access to the expertise of those other than just ourselves. These are good, people have complicated problems. These are very intricate and there are ripple effects that can impact lots of different areas and avenues of their life. My guy with the romance scam, yeah, it was a romance scam, but now he's got a mortgage issue. I talked to a bankruptcy colleague of mine to make sure that there was absolutely nothing given current housing values that can be done for him, not by 7, not by Chapter 13. I talked to a mortgage broker about the possibility of refinancing if there's a life estate. I talked to another about reverse mortgages. We can't possibly have expertise in all of those areas. We need our groups and we rely on those that are willing to lend their expertise to them so that we can get better information to our victims. So, that's what I got to share with you today. Again, if there is, it's a lot of information, I know. I never know if I ever get a captive audience again, so I give you as much as I can. I gave a present, and then if there's something you need more information on, again, you can send me an email. I did a similar type of presentation to an ADRC office, an APS office, and they were overwhelmed, and now at their request, I'm doing little smaller ones. Like I'm doing a 30-minute one just on decisional capabilities and decisional support instruments. So you get this overview. I have a couple other that we may be presenting here, one of which is on fiduciary abuse, on how powers of attorney can be used and abused, as well as representatives' pays and the like. That's a lot of information. And if you don't work in the area, you don't have anything to hang your hat on, right? So feel free to shoot me an email if you have questions about anything, would like any information, share my information with whomever you think would like it. If you have any groups that you belong to that you think they may be interested in a presentation on a subject on financial exploitation or abuse, share my information. I'm willing to talk at any type of a group, because we need to make people aware that it happens. It's not the end of the world. You just need to know who to call to get some help, to get yourself stabilized and do what can be done. And oftentimes people don't want to report it to their family members, right? My mom does something, she calls me. I love it. I'm 210 miles away. She calls me. She falls. She calls me. What the hell am I going to do about it, Mom? Don't tell your brother. Literal words I don't tell Vic. I got to tell him. He's got to come down and check to see if you got a concussion, Mom. I know that she had 3 sons that played football, and she probably knows this sign, but don't tell your brother. Oh, please, Mom. But call me. I'm 210 miles away on a Wednesday afternoon. Yeah, I'm calling Vic. He lives a mile away. Somebody's coming down to check on him. You know? But these are the things that we need to do to make sure that folks know that. Not only for your benefit, but your loved one's benefit, right? They need to know that. The younger ones are targeted more. You just ain't got enough to take, right? Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question. What do you think about companies like LifeLock that are supposed to protect you from identity theft?
The current LifeLock almost scammed me with.
See, they offer products that you can do without paying, and they charge too much, and so I'm not a big fan. It's just like you can do.
It was a fake one.
And that was a fake one, yeah, they can be a scam of them. My biggest pet peeve right now is the credit bureaus, because apparently with the credit bureaus, you can do the freezes, but now if you do a credit freeze, nobody can get in, including you. You can't apply for credit yourself. You can't do a credit card application or anything unless you lift it, right? So apparently, the credit bureaus now have you ever done it on your own credit cards or debit cards, you misplace your wallet, you can go to your phone and lock it, right? So that until you find your wallet going, no, I didn't lose my wallet, it wasn't stolen, I just misplaced it, right? So you can do that from your phone, just do a temporary lock. Not a freeze of your entire credit report. The credit bureaus can do the same thing, so it's like just like the same easy on and off monthly fee. You got to subscribe and pay a monthly fee for it, which is really rich considering Equifax got scammed. They got hacked, right? It's like you're not secure, yet you want me to pay for the privilege of locking my stuff. So I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of any of those that purport to do it. But I understand why, because it's a lot to keep track of. And that's why I think it's more important that we all know that we need to take action should something happen. Because I really think that the days of us, the majority, making it through without ever having to deal with exposure or a scam is slim. You know, and I've given up. I can't be the only person that's woke up at 2 a.m. and started transferring money because I'm now panicking that I bought something on a debit card. I don't use my debit cards anymore, mind you. You know, they tell you certain things and I'm adamant. If I'm somewhere other than my normal shopping area, no. I got my information, my debit card got scammed at one of the gas pumps, you know, back in the, not too long ago, they had those stupid little gadgets, I don't remember what they're called. They put on there and it was fake and they stole your information. Pretty sure where it happened, fortunately for me. But then I found out also your debit card information is not your credit card. You're at the mercy of your bank as to whether or not they give you back that credit. Unlike if you see something on your credit card within a short period of time, they just do it, right? So I preach that. If you do not use your debit card unless you know exactly what merchant you're shopping at, and it's pretty much anybody local, because I don't trust anybody else's swipe machines whatsoever, not that it's happened to me, right? But that kind of goes in between the fake website or fake contacts that can happen when you join these services, is the fact that they also add, I have Norton on my computer, right? And every time there's some scan, do this scan and then, you know, it's gonna protect your computer. But then I always gotta go buy something else, right? It's always an additional service, you gotta pay again for that. It's like, why did you let me do the scan if it doesn't matter, because I didn't pay for it? I don't care how many whatever, I don't even know what that means. But that's my problem with a lot of these companies, is they give you that hook to get you in, but then anything else you need, they're just gonna ding you again, monthly fee for this, fee for that, fee for that. To the point where it's like Amazon, you don't know what you're paying for, it's just $5, $6, $8 here and there. Like I said, I do, you know, it's part of how we live these days. And so it's just a matter of being mindful, watching your billings, so that you can spot it when it does happen. And then you're able to shut it down. And we need to petition, I think, all the credit bureaus, because I think they're stupidly set up. They're not user-friendly. And actually, if you do need to do a credit freeze, you're better off going in saying TransUnion credit freeze, because that link will be easier for you to get to than if you go on their actual website and try to get to the credit freeze site. Because I've been doing it, I don't know what the heck I'm doing wrong, but I'm on the internet all day long and I can't find it. I go back and Google it. They make it this not user-friendly, and it should be, given the effort we have to take to protect ourselves. And that's my big pet. All these companies too, like Norton advertises as this, but how many times do you hear about a big company getting hacked? It's like, how could you not have better protection than Norton on your system? This is your business and you're getting hacked. Wasn't it one of the, I think it was one of the airlines got hacked too. It's like, that's not problematic. You just gave them your passport information. At one point, I think it was, I know I flew Iceland Air, and they literally took my passport number. I was like, that's great. They get hacked, now my passport's compromised potentially, right? So it's a lot. It's a lot that they expect us to do when companies themselves are getting hacked. That should have, with record profits, they could afford some better protections. So that's my 2 cents. Anybody else? Good job, Mom. Keep locking them. But it's a big change though, and it's hard for older adults to accept and deal with, because it wasn't so long ago where I had clients that were filing bankruptcy solely to make the phone calls stop, because they could stand letting a phone ring. Now they don't answer anything, right? It's like caller ID for every number. And you get yelled at once in a while, why didn't you answer? It's like, I don't know, I didn't have you in my phone. But nobody answers their phones. That's why when they say call your grandchildren to confirm that that's them, that's, you know, needs your help, nobody answers them. So, you know, all we can do is take as many, educate ourselves as best we can, protect ourselves as much as possible, and know who to contact when we do something suspect. And again, I'm not putting a freeze on your credit reports at 9 a.m., but I'll do 9 p.m., but I will at 9 a.m. the next morning.